I've had all the pain and sorrow one lifetime will last. Go and tell my darling the highway's got me now. The highway's got me now.
Steer wrestling, it originated as bulldogging, and that was created by an African-American cowboy named Bill Pickett in 1980. And what Bill did was he would wrestle, some of these large steers on the ground as long as he needed to until they were flat on their side, with all 4 feet pointing the same direction. And in the early 1900s, steer wrestling was formalized when they combined the horseback event of decorating with Bill Pickett's craft of bulldogging, and it led us to the sport that we know today, which is steer wrestling. So steer wrestling, you've got a cowboy in a box on his horse behind a string barrier with a steer in the chute, and when he calls for that steer, the cowboy gives that steer the appropriate head start based on the score for that rodeo and that pen. And if he doesn't give him that appropriate head start, he will break the barrier, and there's a 10-second penalty that's added to his run, which in almost every single case is going to knock you out of any chance for any money whatsoever, unless it's a 10-head average like the NFR. But after that point, the steer wrestler, after he's seen a start, he takes chase, and he gets in position, but a good bulldogging horse will read the play, and he's got a good pattern. He knows to get that cowboy in, close to that steer, and then when he gets close, that steer wrestler will slide down the side of his horse with the left hand still attached to the saddle horn, so he still has forward momentum as he's trying to get his head catch. The right arm will go over the spine of the steer, essentially setting a trap, so he can get that head catch. If that steer tries to duck out to the right or stop, he's going to be able to let go of that saddle horn and be able to catch that head. But once he gets up to the head, he gets his head catch, as we call it. So the right horn is going to be in the crook of the right arm, and then the left hand is going to come from the saddle horn, and it is going to grab the inside horn, and it's going to pin that inside horn down to the inside pocket. So as that horse drops that cowboy's feet, he's able to get leverage, able to stop that speed on that steer, and be able to start changing the direction of that steer. So when he hits the ground, he's got that momentum, he's got that steer shaped. So the whole idea of it is that you use your strength, your technique, your leverage, and your speed to essentially try and pitch that steer over your hip, sweep its feet out from underneath it when you hook that nose, so it gets a quick flat fall. And the run ends as soon as that steer is flat on its side and 4 feet are pointing the same direction. The hazer is going to be in the opposite box on the other side of the chute, and when that cowboy nods, depending on the setup, he's going to get a start, set up a wall until that cowboy gets into position, and then depending on the steer, the setup, he's going to try and get that steer into a situation or position where that cowboy has got an easy job to get off his horse and have that steer in a catchable space. And there's a lot more to hazing than that. This could be another video alone that'll probably take about 15 minutes to go through the intricacies of that. But that hazer can make or break your run. A hazer can take a bad situation and turn it into a good one, and then a hazer can sometimes, and I'll be guilty of this. Sometimes a hazer can take a good situation and turn it into a bad one. And I think if you hazed, you've been on both sides of that line, just hopefully more on the positive than the negative. But with steer wrestling, there's 3 important things. Obviously you want a good hazer because they can really impact your run. Number 2, you really want to, work on throwing steers, scoring your horsemanship. A steer wrestler has to be a well-rounded cowboy. But the most important thing, and every single top steer wrestler in the world will will tell you this exact same thing. You need a good horse underneath you. A lot of guys say, and myself included, a good horse is going to be 75% of your run. If you throw the best guy that throws steers in the world on a poor horse, that guy isn't going to win a lot of money and you're never going to see him at the finals. But if you take a okay or decent steer wrestler and put him on the best horse in the world, that guy's going to win enough average checks that you're going to see him at the finals there at the end of the year. But from somebody that hasn't seen the event before, it can seem a little bit simple, but as somebody that's competed in steer wrestling and refined his craft over a lifetime, there's a lot of moving parts in it, and a lot of it's psychological, and there is a lot of success built on even more failure. So it's a very technical sport, but it's a great one to be a part of. Hello, my name is Chance Butterfield. I am a professional steer wrestler based out of Pinoque, Alberta, Canada. I'm a third-generation cowboy, both on my father's and mother's side. And like a lot of cowboys that had rodeo parents, I started rodeo in the peewees, doing all that barrel racing, pole bending, goat tying, all that stuff until I was old enough to ride steers in the Canadian Professional Rodeo Association. And I was doing that when my parents were both rodeo and pros, so I hit the circuit with them and rode steers from, I think, about 11 years old till 13 years of age. And when I got close to high school, I took my first steer wrestling clinic of Wally and Trigger Pews, and that's where I got into the game. So I had 4 years of high school rodeo, made nationals a few times, and finished third in the world at the national finals, or National High School Rodeo Finals in Farmington, New Mexico 1 year. So I rode broncs a little bit, wasn't that good at it, continued that on till college, but those were the two events that I did in high school. And then I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship down to Texas, where I finished my college rodeo career and my education at Texas Tech University. Got a lot of fun memories about that, made a lot of friends down there, and a lot of guys that I rodeoed with down in the States at that time I rodeo with today, both down in the States when I do go, and a lot of those guys do come and rodeo up here. So that was a great time in my life and made a lot of lifelong friends through that process. But I started my professional rodeo career in 2007 when I filled my pro card at Rodeo Royal in Calgary, Alberta. And then I've been pro rodeoing ever since. It's been a great career. And when I look back at highlights, I've won a lot of rodeos and I've got my CFR qualifications, but for me, the biggest one is back in 2017, I almost lost my life 3 months before the CFR, which I had qualification locked up at that time. And I remember after surgery, my doctor said that there wasn't a snowball's chance in hell that I'd be able to compete 3 months after that, and which was reasonable. I broke my ribs, bruised my heart, a few other organs, destroyed my spleen, and that was on top of being revived at the time, airlifted, and then getting emergency open surgery to save my life. So it was a pretty turbulent time. So he was a good guy, and that was a pretty reasonable statement to make. But I had the good fortune. My wife, Kenda, is a physiotherapist, a very gifted one, a little bit biased, but the guys that have worked with her would probably say the same thing. And then had a close friend named Matt Clary that was a nutritionist. So I worked pretty close with them, and we rehabbed very hard but safely. And to my surgeon, Dr. Beekman, to his surprise, when I went and seen him in October, he was blown away by the progress that I made. So he released me to start practicing lightly in early October, and then November, slightly before the CFR, he said, "Yeah, you're released for full activity." And the cherry on the thing is Beekman actually flew out there that Saturday to to watch me there at the Saturday night perf. And so it was a very sublime experience. And yeah, like I said, you know, a lot of guys look back at a big rodeo win or a Canadian title as a highlight in their career, but you know, that was probably the most profound moment in my life, and it changed my life and for the better. And yeah, it's just one of those, you know, you fight like hell to rip hell off the hinges kind of moments. And you know, now that I have kids, I hope that works as a bit of a an inspiration to them when, you know, they hit hard times, like everybody will, that, you know, you can fight through some pretty terrible situations and be able to come out the other end better than what you were. So that's why that's a highlight of my career and overall highlight of my life. So but outside of that, it's been a great career, a lot of accomplishments that I'm proud of, and I hope to have a few more. But I'm 30 now, well, 39, I guess. I'm in my 30s, so I'm in the twilight years of my career, and it, you know, the wrecks that I've taken in my life have caught up to me in my 30s, so I'm feeling them a little bit more. But like I said, I've got great practitioners, nutritionists, trainers that I work with, and I'm too stubborn to, you know, go quietly into the sunset if I still have a fire in my heart for the sport, and I still feel that I'm competitive. So I hope to be here for a while, but if my body tells me otherwise, it's been a good career and I can be proud of it.